So, go. So what if I told you guys that over winter break, I went into my parents' bedroom and I took $50 out of my mom's purse? Now you guys probably would think that this is pretty immoral and pretty lame of me to steal from my own mom. But sometimes communication, is misinterpreted or miscommunicated. So in reality, I may have gone into my mom's purse because it was my birthday that day and she wasn't around. She told me to take birthday money out of her credit card. So my purpose today is to encourage you guys to realize that your first answer isn't always the right answer, and it certainly isn't the only answer. So I'm credible to present this because I'm a Cal Poly graduate. I've done extensive research in the field on both what it means to have an open mind in daily life and the benefits of having an open mind, and I also use credible sources in my research. So the purpose of this speech today is to provide you guys with insight on what it really means to practice having an open mind. It's kind of a cliche term that gets thrown around a lot, but I want to offer a good definition for you guys and give a solid explanation and teach you guys how it can improve relationships, it can enrich your lives, and give you a better understanding of others. This speech is relevant to you guys because we all live in America, and it's a melting pot of diverse cultures and ideology, so it's important to have an open mind. And we're also, at this point in our lives, we're all faced with life-altering decisions. So when making decisions, it's really important to keep an open mind. A closed mind can limit your thoughts, abilities, and potential. Author David Balicky articulates this well in his novel, A Great Boy. Open your mind to new horizons. No matter where you go, no matter where you are, you must expand your perspectives by exploring a world beyond your own. An open mind unlocks doors to diverse opportunities. A closed mind limits your potential. All right, so with that said, I'm going to examine what it means to have an open mind. Clinical therapist Catherine Freemeyer at University of Pennsylvania defines an open mind as the willingness to search actively for evidence against one's favored beliefs, plans, or goals, and to weigh such evidence fairly when it's available. This does not imply one is indecisive or incapable of thinking for oneself. After considering various alternatives, an open-minded person can take a firm stand and act accordingly. So it's really important to understand that this doesn't mean dropping your own core personal beliefs and values, but rather, questioning whether or not these are the right beliefs and whether or not, that you should take those beliefs into daily life and spread them onto other decisions you make, because there's many ways to look at certain issues. So it's important to consider others' beliefs and perspectives, and kind of the reason I decided to give this speech is because I've been thinking a lot recently how we all see the world through a different lens, and it's really important to keep that in mind when you make decisions, because often we get caught up in our own lens. So now I'm going to explain an intuitive obstacle that blocks us from keeping an open mind. And this is called the my side bias. Americans are seen from outsiders as typically progressive people. We're progressively minded, you could say, compared to Indian or Asian cultures, for example. We're also non-dogmatic. In a survey that NBC News reported on this year in 2015, they did a study of 30,000 Americans. 90% of them reported to be strongly religious, but 70% of them said that they're non-dogmatic in their religion, which means that they don't believe that their religion is the only way to salvation. So we are an open-minded society in some terms, but as humans, we all fall victim to the my side bias. And I'll define the my side bias. Psychologist Jamie Hale defines my side bias as the tendency for people to evaluate evidence, generate evidence, and test hypotheses in a manner biased towards their own opinions. So the key word in that is generate evidence. You kind of generate evidence based on the way you believe about it, the way you feel about a certain subject. And this really prevents you from acquiring the accurate knowledge needed to take a firm stance and to take a well-rounded, good stance on something. So this means that to overcome the my side bias, you first have to acknowledge it. It's like alcoholism. And then from there, you can analyze both sides of an issue instead of just going with your first thought, it's kind of like if I were to ask you guys all, should the U.S. increase tax rates for the upper and middle class significantly in the U.S.? Your first thought, if you fall into the middle or upper class, is hell no. That doesn't make any sense. But you didn't even consider to weigh the other options that, sure, there's probably some guy snacking on caviar while other kids are going to bed hungry. And I'm not saying that you're wrong for thinking this, but I'm just saying that you often jump to conclusions without analyzing both sides. So it's important to realize that we all do this, and that way you can overcome it. So now that I've established what the my side bias is and how that affects having an open mind, I'm going to describe some daily benefits of keeping an open mind. So it actually makes you a more intellectual person and gives you better real-life reasoning skills. Author John Lambie writes that pure cognitive capacity, as measured by an IQ test, is not sufficient to predict reasoning skill about real-life issues. Important are the person's epistemic values, how much they value being an accurate acquirer of knowledge. So being an accurate acquirer of knowledge really is at the root of being an open-minded thinker, because you're not just going with your first intuition on an issue, you're gathering accurate knowledge and then from there taking a stance. As far as social scenarios go, it prevents irrational concerns. For example, the other day during midterm, so I came back from my chemistry midterm and I just did really poorly on it. And my roommates had heard me kind of whining about it leading up to it, and when I got back, no one really asked or cared how I did on it. And I was kind of bummed out on that at first, but then I realized that after taking a step back and considering both sides, my roommate and my side, that I was wrong, that I was being irrational about that, because they were going through stressful times as well, and they had bigger issues to worry about than my test. And it also helps us predict the way others will act and react to you, because if you're able to see a situation from another's perspective and try and understand where they're coming from on an issue, you'll be able to understand why they're acting that way. If you keep an open mind, you're less likely to project your actions and emotions on others as well, because you understand where they're coming from. So instead of judging others for how their views differentiate from yours, you judge them on what their views actually are and not how it affects your views. So in conclusion, I've spoken about how important it is to analyze the many sides of a proposition and ideas when making a decision. It's really important to seek the truth and to not jump to conclusions too fast and be an accurate acquirer of knowledge and keep those epistemic values. And yeah, it'll in the long run make you a more intellectual person. So one thing I'd like to leave you guys with is next time you're trying to make a decision or an opinion, try not to make an argument unless you can argue both sides of the proposition. So thank you.